we've got a report coming in from Mike Klis that DeMeco Ryans is emerging as the top candidate for the Denver Broncos head coaching position. I even changed shirts. I put on a red polo so I could match DeMeco. But we've got some news to break down here. So, like I said, Mike Klis reporting that DeMeco Ryans emerges as a top Broncos head coach candidate. He had an article attached to it. So I'm going to give you my thoughts. I'm going to give you my analysis and my takes and all that good stuff. And, of course, I want to hear from you all watching right now. But first, let's look at the actual quote and article that Mike Klis said. Other Broncos head coach candidates remain in the mix, including Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, former New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton, and former Detroit Lions and Indianapolis Colts head coach Jim Caldwell, according to a source. But Ryans appears to be a top choice. Now, we continue to get all sorts of different rumors and breadcrumbs, and I'm talking to you guys once or even twice a day right now with all these new rumors and reports coming out. But this one I feel has a little bit more truth to it. I think there's a reason why the Broncos haven't organized or scheduled the second interview yet. Because they can't do it yet. DeMeco Ryans can't interview with any team, that's not true exactly. DeMeco Ryans cannot interview with the Broncos until after this week's game. So if Denver has zeroed in on DeMeco Ryans, I could see why Rob Walton would go on a hunting trip. I still don't think it's a good time to do that, whether it's true or not. But the point being here, I think the dots sort of align. No second interview. DeMeco Ryans can't interview until after this week anyway. It makes a little bit of sense of how, or it makes sense of why DeMeco could be their number one target since they haven't organized a second interview. By the way, the Panthers hired Frank Reich. Quick note right there. But moving on, I want to hear from you all. Would you like a DeMeco Ryans hire? Would you like if the Broncos went out and got the 38-year-old 49ers defensive coordinator to be the 20th head coach in Denver Broncos history? And in my opinion, one of the most important hires in franchise history with the last 7 years have brought this fan base and the way they're heading right now and everything on the line in terms of the investment they've made for Russell Wilson? Let me know in the comment section below. I think when it comes to DeMeco Ryans, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I think he has the potential to be a great head coach. That part I'm not too concerned about. I do think a 38-year-old DC who's only had that post for 2 years, he needs to bring in one hell of a staff. DeMeco Ryans is not coming in knowing everything and being a 65-year-old NFL vet who's got plenty of experience. And that was sort of Hackett's downfall a little bit, right? He brought a really young coordinator and coaching group with him, and all of them were learning it on the fly, and that resulted in 9 one-score losses. Now, I also think it's important to say, if the Broncos hire DeMeco Ryans is a bit of, a wanted coach right now, and we'll talk about how the Texans are pursuing him. I'm guessing DeMeco Ryans is going to tell Denver, okay, I like the job, I'll take the job, but I don't want to be graded or evaluated on Russell Wilson. I don't want to go down sinking with him. I'm not the one that traded for what looks to be a washed-up quarterback. So if we suck this year and Russell Wilson's bad, I don't want that counting against me. I want to know that I am safe and secure from Russell Wilson's poor play affecting my job status. And my guess is if the Broncos are going for a 38-year-old DC, an up-and-coming coordinator in the NFL, they're thinking long-term. They're not getting this guy to save Russell Wilson. If they were, they'd go offense or they'd go Sean Payton. But I'm guessing they see a future star in DeMeco Ryans, and they're willing to be patient. They're willing to sit back and go, if that means we're stuck with bad Russ for 1, maybe 2 more seasons, that's fine. We're not going to rush. Kind of like the 49ers with Shanahan. Up until this year, Shanahan didn't even have a winning record in San Francisco. They were patient and they believed long-term in him. So I would believe DeMeco Ryans would be seeking the same sort of insurance from the Broncos ownership group. Now, if you're not familiar with DeMeco Ryans, some background on his career. The 38-year-old DC from Alabama was a linebacker with the Houston Texans from 2006 to 2011, which we'll talk about that team in just a second. Then he was with the Eagles from 2012 until 2015, until an Achilles tear ended his career, and that's where it kind of gets a little bit interesting. He's been with the 49ers since 2017, defensive quality control coach in 2017 for 1 season, inside linebacker coach for the next 3 years, And then once Salah went to the New York Jets, he took over as the DC. And, I mean, most people thought, ooh, I wonder how the Niners defense will fare now that Salah has left. You could make the argument they could be better than where they were with Robert Salah as the defensive coordinator. I mean, he's got them playing in the NFC Championship game right now. So, kind of goes to show that DeMeco Ryans, yeah, I think him climbing up the ladder this quickly really speaks to the high character that he is. Now, if you're looking for a Broncos YouTube channel to keep you guys informed and up to date all year long in the entire offseason, this is the channel for you. Help us reach 12,000 subscribers. We are getting closer. We have been growing like crazy this offseason, but I want to keep that momentum going into the offseason. So hit that big red button and subscribe today. So I hinted at this earlier, but I want to expand on it and get you guys some details. Because the Broncos have already done one interview with DeMeco Ryans, the NFL rules say that they can interview with him, win or lose, after championship weekend. Now, only teams that have conducted one interview with DeMeco Ryans have that ability, which is the Texans and the Broncos. Now, the Panthers are out of it. They just hired Frank Reich 20 minutes ago. But teams like the Indianapolis Colts and the Arizona Cardinals, they cannot speak to DeMeco Ryans until after the Super Bowl. So the Broncos, if they're being patient, it's because they've got their guy in their sights and they have to wait till after this weekend to fly him out, come to the facilities, and kind of talk like, all right, let's put this thing together. We know who you are. We want you. Let's make it a deal, right? So then we come to this issue, this fork in the road. Is it Broncos versus Texans for DeMeco Ryans? Both teams seem to have a big crush on the DC. And here's where it gets a little bit interesting, and I'm a little surprised this isn't talked about more. But DeMeco Ryans sued the Houston Texans in 2016. It's a little strange then that he could go potentially be the head coach for the team that in just 7 years prior, he was suing over an Achilles tear, the standard for the field. It ended up getting settled out of court, if I remember correctly. But I just feel like we should just kind of verbalize that. DeMeco Ryans sued the Houston Texans in the NFL. Maybe he wouldn't want to go be the head coach for the team he sued. Now, his wife is from Houston. Like I said, he spent a lot of time playing with the Texans, so in some ways, it's home to him, no doubt about it, and that could be a huge driving factor, right? Go back to where you played. You've got a lot of draft capital and free agency money to spend on. Some good young pieces in Houston. There's pros and cons to both the Broncos head coaching job and the Texans head coaching job. Now, I'm curious, which job do you think is better? No bias here. I do think the Broncos head coaching job is better from the top to bottom standpoint, right? The front office and the ownership level. Houston's run through back-to-back one-year head coaches. Doesn't tell me they're all that stable. And while Denver just got rid of Hackett under a year, that was just a clear, all 32 NFL GMs and the head coaches or whatever agree, that was a misfire on hiring Hackett. So I don't think that's really counting against the Broncos, but they were quick to move on from their last two head coaches. So maybe DeMeco Ryans is looking at this going, do I really want to go to a place like Houston where the leash is very short? Whereas in Denver, they've got ownership that's willing to drop $400,000, the drop of a hat, for a meaningless Week 18 game. Ownership that might make me one of the higher paid head coaches in the NFL. Ownership that's going to be aggressive in free agency. Give us the green light to go spend big money, to go pull off big trades. Denver might be a better job despite being tied to Russell Wilson for at least one more year, probably two, and not having a first-round draft pick right now. Well, they have one, but if they had traded for Sean Payton, but they got DeMeco Ryans, they don't have to trade it. So having a first-round draft pick, but a late first-rounder. So with that being said, that's the latest. I appreciate everyone for tuning back in for our second video of the day. We're going to sign off and see you probably sometime soon with more Broncos news and rumors.